Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to a brand new segment for this YouTube channel, Awake and Aligned. I'm Nova Whiteman. I am an author. I am the author of the book, Awake and Aligned, How to Navigate the Human Experience as a Spiritual Being. And I basically created this YouTube channel and a lot of these different videos. Maybe you've watched some of the alignment break videos, just to offer some conscious content and a little bit of help for navigating this freaking human experience, right? So many of us get on a conscious spiritual path, and I mean, you know the drill. You have your awakening or one of several awakenings that are at first thrilling, and then when you're trying to integrate it in everyday human life, it can be super, super challenging. So my aim with these videos, no matter which segment I'm creating or offering you, is to give you different access points, different ways, different approaches. Maybe you'll hear something that sparks something in you and sets you off on a really significant part of your course or journey, or it just helps you integrate something a little bit more deeply. If any of that happens, I'm really happy. At the very least, it's talking about spiritual stuff and through the lens of consciousness and living with a ton of self-awareness and intentionality, and that's never a bad thing, right? So I'm super happy to have my first guest for this segment, which, to be honest, guys, it's a work in progress. I don't know what I'm going to call this segment yet. It might be alignment happy hour or something like that. But we were talking, and I asked my guest, Julie, who I will introduce in a moment, like, what are you drinking? I've got like some iced coffee here. What have you got? And she's like, water. I'm like, all right, we're not going to use that. We're not going to use that one yet. But the idea is casual conversations, talking about big things that we can integrate and apply and make functional in our everyday human life to make the journey a little bit more smooth. So my guest is a dear, dear friend of mine who I've actually known a really long time. We've known each other since 7th grade, which back in our day was junior high, not middle school. We grew up together, went to high school together. We were friends, but it's not like we were BFFs or hung out a ton. Kept in touch through Facebook, as people in our generation tend to do. And then one day, years ago, well, about 9 years ago to be exact, I get a random message from Julie Boudewyns saying, basically, this is going to sound crazy and you can dismiss this if you want, but Spirit keeps urging me to reach out to you and ask you about a baby, ask you about pregnancy, and if there's anything there going on for you. Big, bold move, right? This chick has some gumption. And I had to laugh because that very morning I had taken a pregnancy test, that very morning. And we're not talking, I'm not broadcasting any of this stuff. But I had taken a pregnancy test and it was negative. And it was actually kind of a tender moment. And I can see why my guides stepped in and nudged her to contact me. I had had a miscarriage 2 months prior. And that was my first pregnancy test, or we were ready to try again. And so when I took that test and I saw negative, I was like, oh, you're crushed and you're still really raw and vulnerable from the experience. And so I get her message and I'm like, what are the chances? What are the chances? And I've been on this conscious spiritual journey since a child, so I dismissed nothing. That was not weird to me at all. I was super excited, actually. So I just wrote her back and I'm like, hey, not weird at all. Thank you so much. Took a test this morning. You're spot on. It was negative, but she said, well, don't be surprised if it happens soon. I literally took another test a day later and it was positive. So she knew I was pregnant. And thus began a whole new phase and chapter of our friendship, of our partnership, really. I mean, she's been one of my dearest partners in spiritual crime for at least the last 9 years. This is Julie Boudewyns. She is a Soul permission coach. I don't want to mess any of this up. I wrote it down. Soul permission coach. She's a psychic, obviously. And she's a master energy healer. And let me tell you, I mean, she's a master Reiki practitioner. She's trained in something called holy fire. And every time she uses it on me, I never know when she's doing it, but I can feel it. I feel like one time we were in the same room. She didn't tell me she had started. And my head literally felt like it was on fire. And I was like, Julie, what's this? What's happening here? She's like, oh, I started it. I'm like, all right, great, cool. So she's super, super powerful in that way. But she's all of these things: soul permission coach, psychic, master energy healer, to help people embrace who they really are on the inside so that they can bring it out on the outside, right? And we need more people like Julie. Having these conversations with someone like Julie is super valuable, because none of us really know how to do. We were never taught how to, first and foremost, value what's on the inside, see what's on the inside, much less let it take the lead on the outside. And as a result, we have an incredibly dysfunctional society and world. So Julie's trying to change that. I'm trying to change that. It's probably very likely that you watching this are doing your part to change that. So welcome, Julie. That was a huge introduction. Welcome.
I didn't want to stop you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. And yes, we have been on one hell of a journey these last 9 years.
Yeah, we really have. And part of the reason why I wanted to do these segments, these little informal conversation type segments, is because in my world, I have had the pleasure of, I have many people that I can have these conversations with, super immersed in this work, obviously. And how many times have we been talking about something, one aspect of it, of our experiences, and been like, damn it, we should have recorded that. Why are we not recording this? So that's what we're going to do today. We don't have a lot of, notes, or there's no outline or format that we're going to follow. We're just going to have an organic conversation and see what kind of magic comes out of it. I do want everybody watching to know that one part of our journey together involved Julie being trained in the spiritual alignment process that I created. And so what's great about her work is she's, when we talk about helping people to embrace who they are on the inside, well, that's alignment. That is aligning your thoughts, your words, your actions, your values, your dreams, hopes, desires, your superpowers, all of it, so that everything that you do in this world is an expression of who you really are. And she's trained in that. She walks her talk, practices that. So we're going to look at it through that lens as well. So the primary topic, though, we don't have a structure, but we do have a focus, because I find that that's helpful, because we can talk about anything. Have you ever been to like a convention, or gotten a psychic reading or a healing, or took a workshop, or went on a retreat of a spiritual personal development nature, and you were so on air, flying high, or you get that reading and you're so jazzed about what the psychic told you, or what you learned in your coaching session, and then you go on to your everyday life, or you go back home from that retreat and you're flying high as a kite, and then it's like, bam, you come crashing down, because again, there's everyday human life, and we weren't taught how to integrate all of this in it. So we want to talk about, well, how do you do that? How do you take those high flying, conscious, resonant, inspiring moments into your everyday life after the fact? And Julie, I know you have a great perspective on this, because you've given probably thousands of psychic readings and healings. You've been to those conventions. You've done so many of those retreats and trainings. Tell me your thoughts on that and your personal experience.
Oh man, that's what I call the spiritual hangover. And that's exactly what it is. And it's, we go to these things, we get this aha moment, you walk away and you're like, yeah, I'm going to kick ass. I'm going to do the things. And like 3 days later, you're like, what happened? What do I do now? And that's the majority of my clients. When I see them, we'll have this great empowering reading. And then I'll hear from them like a month later. It's like, yeah, it was great, but I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know how to stay in that high. And that's what you do. I mean, you get that, it is a high, right? Somebody connects with you on such a spiritual level, and you feel seen and you feel heard, and you just your body just lights up. But then as the days progress, we start to kind of go down that little, the high gets a little less, we're not feeling as great because we don't know how to implement, or we don't know how to stay consistent in that energy. And I think it's so important for us to be able to access that without just getting a reading or, getting this great healing. How do we do that every day? And it's nobody knows. So it's like, what do we do now? And I think that's a big reason why you do what you do and I do what I do, is to help people understand that we can keep that high, that we are in charge of it, that we have control over it. It's, yes, people are very powerful, and yes, you can get a great psychic reading, but those are kind of falling to the wayside. I mean, they really are. Yes, we want a reading and we want, tell me my future, but yet we still have to be co-creative and take action in order for those things to happen, in order for those things to come to fruition. I can't just go home and sit on my desk and go, oh, universe said I got some great things coming, I'm just going to hang out. It doesn't always work that way. It doesn't.
Yeah, and then it can even create this sort of unhealthy dynamic in your relationship with your spiritual teacher, your psychic, your coach, your mentor. And it's even in just everyday traditional therapy included, is you don't want to create this dynamic of, hey, you do it for me. Just tell me what's going to happen. And even if we're looking at it through the lens of just like an intuitive reading, well, what is that? Predicting your future? There's no one on this planet that can predict, like solidly predict with perfect certainty what's going to happen. And it's not for lack of the ability or talent or connection to their intuitive gifts. It's because energy is always moving. We have free will. So what you're essentially doing is you're reading the energy of where their life is flowing, the potentials that they're most aligned with. And then the work becomes about them lining up with that. How do you rendezvous with that? How do you allow it in? I happen to be somebody, because you said it just now and I've heard it before, like, God, wouldn't it be great if we could just be like, really, that's coming? Cool. I'm going to be over here, sipping my iced coffee till it shows up. Now, by the laws of the universe and the mechanics of energy, that is possible, like state of allowing, as long as you're open and in the receptive mode and fully relaxed and aligned. Yeah, you will probably get a phone call with a great opportunity out of the blue, or, something along those lines. But the problem is most of us can't do that for very long. It sounds great in theory. Like, yeah, I'm just going to go watch Netflix and chill until my dreams fall at my doorstep. You might be able to maintain that for a few episodes, maybe an entire season if it's really good. And then what? You get antsy because we came here to play. We came here to self-express and get our hands and feet in the dirt, get into the experiential aspect of it. So when I hear you say like, the psychic tells you what to do, not what to do, but what's going to happen. And then you just sit there and twiddle your thumbs. Well, that doesn't work. That's not helpful. So what do you do instead? Because at one time you were primarily giving psychic readings and energy healings, and the coaching part, the mentoring part hadn't come into play. So what was your experience there?
Well, after doing all of these readings and having repeat clients, that's when it kind of like, wait a minute, we need more here. It's not just calling me every, 6 weeks when shit hits the fan, or when things are amok. It's how do you stay consistent in that? That's where we lack, is that support, because not everybody is, people aren't very good about expressing, this sucks, or this isn't working. How do I do that? And so being in a supported space where somebody that's probably already went through it, or can understand energy, understand, the reading I gave you, I can go, okay, what can we put in place here? Or what would be beneficial for you with how your energy works to achieve that? That's the most integral part of doing this type of work. So doing readings is great, and I loved them for such a long time, but then I was like, I wanted to empower my clients to figure this out on their own, instead of calling me all the time. Like, yes, I love you and I want to see you, but I also want to empower you to take charge, to understand how you work, how your energy works, how you have these unique gifts that you can put in the world, and being okay and getting permission to do that, because nobody gives us permission to do anything. We were, I'm a Midwesterner. We're typical, you sit down, you be quiet, you don't speak until spoken to. If you don't have anything nice to say, you don't say anything at all. We were ingrained in that when we were younger. So as we get older, we don't know how to speak up. We don't know how to ask for the things that we want, or step into those unique gifts that we have, because it's kind of not the norm, and we don't feel like, oh, somebody's going to stare at me, somebody's going to, nobody's going to be accepting of this. But the crazy thing is once you start doing it, then people are like, oh my God, me too. Oh my gosh, I had that happen to me. Like it creates a better story, and it creates more momentum and action, and allowing us to be who we really are. And that's huge. So bridging that gap of getting that great psychic reading and bringing it into actual fruition, and like, holy shit, I did this, or I achieved this. That's huge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, back when I used to do full-time individual coaching, which many of you know, I've recently shifted from that. I keep a small handful of individual clients just because I don't think I can ever fully let that go. But expanding to larger audiences and groups and conscious content like this, I always used to tell my clients that, yeah, we're going to meet bi-weekly. Every 2 weeks, we're going to have a 1-hour session. And typically we would do that over the course of 6 months, or in some cases, even a year. Because it's that consistency, like building up that consciousness and holding that awareness in your everyday life. It doesn't happen overnight, right? But I always told them that 2 weeks in between when we talk are going to be the most powerful for you.
Mm-hmm.
The sessions themselves, great. Like I'm going to toot my own horn here. I'm pretty good at what I do. But where the magic really is when you go out into your everyday life looking through a brand new lens, disrupting old patterns,
Mm-hmm.
using some techniques and daily practices that allow you to access in the moment what you couldn't access before because you weren't paying attention or you didn't have the tools. So working with somebody, or even, obviously I'm always going to recommend that because it is the path of least resistance and most joy in my mind. I'll always have a coach. I've been working with the same one for like 4 years now. Whether it's working with somebody, or you're reading a book, or you're coming across some practices or exercises, every time you implement that, every time you show up in that way, you are tipping the scales in the direction
Mm-hmm.
of you being more cognizant, more conscious, more aware in the moment. When you go into like old reactionary mode, where, let's say, a really silly example is, you're crabby in traffic, you're stuck in traffic and you are bitching about it and you let it ruin your whole day and it spills over into your interactions with everyone else. That's unconscious. That's something that you would later go to your psychic or your coach or whoever is helping you and say, God, why does this keep happening to me?
Mm-hmm.
And then you start actually showing up, you're empowered, and you start practicing these things so that the next time, or at least more of the time, you're like, oh, wait a minute, this is just traffic. It's okay. Everybody experiences traffic. I'm going to turn on the radio. I'm going to roll down the window. I'm going to look at the trees while watching the road. So it's disrupting those old patterns with consciousness. And that is far more satisfying in the experience than constantly saying, oh, I need Julie. I need so-and-so. I need someone outside of me to tell me what is what. And, without really saying it, do it for me. That's not the point. That's not fun.
No, that's, I think for us being leaders and teachers, I want to empower you to do this yourself. And it's the consistency. So you're also responsible for it. If you're calling, a psychic every week, you're not being responsible. You're not taking charge. You're letting things happen. So the consistency doesn't stay there. And that's the huge piece. So that's, like we have the hangover, right? The spiritual hangover. You have this great buzz cooking. Well, you stop doing things that support that and it starts to come down. And that's where we need somebody in there to go, hey, you need to step up again. Or, oh, wait, I talked about this with Julie, or I talked about this with Nova. I'm not supposed to do that. I'm supposed to do this instead. So it's keeping that level of energy up, that frequency up, your vibration up, to keep accessing all of that great stuff that we want, that ease, the flow, the magic. People are like, oh, how do you get those messages all the time? Or it's like, I'm doing the work. I'm paying attention. I'm in a level of awareness. I'm taking care of myself. I'm doing these practical little tools every day that I know keeps me consistent. Then, you talk about the human experience. So, life happens, shit happens. I'm not immune to it. You're not immune to it, even though we do this work. So what is the first thing that we do when shit hits the fan? We stop taking care of ourselves. We are the first person we will put on the back burner. And then guess what? Your vibration starts shifting down because, oh, I feel fine, or I don't need that, or this, I'm too busy, I can't put that in my schedule. We step ourselves back, and then it's that domino effect, and it just chicks down. It's like, I don't know how I got here. Oh, I was doing so good. Things were so good. I can tell you how you got there real quick.
Well, and that's such a great point, because we look at this whole like spiritual development work and consciousness journey, and you tend to focus on those highs, don't you? You've got everybody speaking to just raise your vibration, get into the receptive mode, do the work. And part of the work, a huge part of the work, isn't just getting your energy up there. It's knowing what to do when it inevitably drops, when you fall out of alignment, when you have a bad moment, when you snap at your kids, like I did this morning as we were rushing out the door. What you do and how you show up and patterns that you can disrupt in those moments are huge. And not only those like little minute moments, if we're just talking about, disrupting patterns and doing things a little bit differently, but like the overall journey, like, how can I describe it? Everybody knows what I'm talking about, though. I refer to it as like the breakdown before the breakthrough. So when you're in breakdown mode, when you're in the muck, when you're having your dark night of the soul, when you're learning or remembering a certain aspect of yourself, and it looks like a spiritual lesson. I don't believe in tests. I don't think we're ever being tested. I think it's always opportunities for us to step into the next highest version of ourselves. But in human speak, when you're in it, it sucks. It hurts. You're frustrated. You don't know where you're going. You can't access the sunshine and roses form of this work in those moments. So like, I think when we're speaking to that time after you have a spiritual high at a workshop or a retreat, or by working with somebody one-on-one, and then you're taking it into your everyday life, a lot of times those spiritual highs will trigger that sort of breakdown mode. And it's not to punish us. It's not to deter us or discourage us. It's actually acting as a mechanism for a deeper and fuller expansion for us to step into that next highest version. But of course, when you're feeling like shit and you're full of that doubt, anxiety, and fear, it's hard to remember that. And even if you do remember that, you're dealing with the plethora of emotions that you have to like sift and sort through. So Julie, tell me, what then? What do you do then?
The breakdown before the breakthrough. Never had one of those before.
Yeah, you just came out of one.
I was just going to say, like, what happened a couple of days ago? Well, I think in this business, there's so many people that gloss over that. It's always rainbows and butterflies, and things are great. And I'm not Pollyanna. I never have been. When shit sucks, I'm going to tell you, we're not excluded from this work. But what I do know is when I do access some of this lower crap and I move through it, makes me a better version of myself. I peel back another beautiful layer, but it also helps when we go through this. Then I guarantee you the next client I have is going to be in the midst of it. It's like, oh, I got you. I know what we do. But to stay at it on a daily basis, I work with a couple of really simple tools to help stay in that space. It's not, we don't have fen anymore. You can't take the magic pill and the weight goes away. There isn't no, magic pill for us, but we do have certain exercises and routines that we know work. And a lot of these, when I think back to even when I was working with you, when I did training with you, they're still tried and true. Still to this day, I still do gratitudes every day. I mean, there's shit all around us. We can see that. If you focus on it, you're just going to amplify it. So why would we do that? So when every time I say, I do my gratitude every day, people are kind of like, oh yeah, well I do them too. And I'm like, when you give me that kind of energy, like, do you really do them? The whole point is to access a gratitude is to feel into it and be in that space, be in that uplifted space of how you felt when you saw the thing, the beautiful painting, the lovely walk by the lake. We want to access that energy again. It's not hard to do that. If you can't sit down and do a couple of gratitudes a day because you're too busy, I'm not buying it. It's the scrolling. That's one of the things that I do to help me, especially if I'm in a funk or I'm in a mood. The other thing that is super helpful is I move. So a lot of people, I know you are more of a meditator, like you like to sit in meditation. That's good for you, Nova. I hope it works out well. I am not. And that's one of the eureka things that I've had over the years is I can't sit in meditation and just, get the message or get the answer. I got to move. I got to go to yoga. I got to ride my bike. I got to go for a walk. It's the whole point is you're doing something monotonous. Actually, most of it comes in the shower and you're in the same boat. You're in the shower for like 2 minutes and it's like, crap, you get this great download. It's because you're doing something monotonous. It doesn't require brain power. And that's what meditation is. When you're sitting in meditation, you're not required to do anything. Same thing, like one of my number ones, if I'm in a huge funk or I'm just trying to find some clarity or I need to release what's happening, I clean my house. I know it sounds terrible, but again, it's monotonous. I know how to clean my house. I don't have to put a lot of time and energy into it. And my family scatters. If they even remotely think I'm cleaning the house, they're gone.
Yeah.
It's like I get that quiet space, right? That's what we need to do is we need to kind of quiet down the monkey chatter. We need to be able to be in our space and go, okay, this isn't happening to, it's happening for me. It's changing that perspective. And that usually helps a lot of the time. And those are just a couple of things that I do to help maintain that space. You're going to go in the muck. You can't bypass it, but we don't want to stay there. Nobody ever wants to stay there. We choose to a lot of the time, but that's where we do these simple daily habits, daily routines, daily tricks to help keep us in that aligned space. So we stay up at that higher level. Yeah, we're going to come down. I'm not the Dalai Lama. I'm not Mother Teresa. I got bad days here, but I know how to access certain things to get me to climb out of that little hole that I've created. And you've gotten the messages of like, what the hell? Like,
and I sent you the messages. Same thing. I sent you,
right?
Julie, it's happening.
Right. But what I love about that though is we call each other out on it too. It's like, okay, knock it off. It's not that bad. You're just in a rough space. You can't access the information right now. Take a break, take a breath, take a day. We'll come back and look at it again. And that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
It's being able to be aware of it, I think, is the key, is when you're in those spaces and then how to react or how to make conscious choices to remove yourself from it.
Yes. Consciousness and discernment are like the prime ingredients to navigating this human experience, I think, because exactly what you were just speaking to. Sometimes first and foremost, you bring consciousness to your experience. Name what you're feeling, name what you're going through, name what you're thinking, what you desire, all that kind of stuff. That can be done through journaling, that can be done through meditating, that can be done through talking it out with someone else. There's so many different ways to do that. So consciousness is key. And then discernment. Well, okay, now that I know that, what do I do with it? Sometimes it's going to look like, all right, I'm going to go for a walk out in nature, get my vibration up, really breathe in the fresh air, be supported by, Mother Earth's energy. Sometimes it's going to be like, you know what, I'm just throwing in the towel for a couple of days. I'm going to surrender because obviously I'm going through some sort of an upgrade or a breakdown before the breakthrough. And I wrote a whole chapter about that in my book. Like essentially in a nutshell, it's surrender and let the process do its thing. But it makes such a difference if you're aware of it. It makes such a difference because then you don't go into story making mode, or at least less so, where you're like, oh, what am I doing wrong? Oh, I focused on the wrong thing. And now through the law of attraction, I'm attracting this to myself, or I'm messing it up. And, you just get yourself into this tailspin when really what's taking place is spiritual evolution, vibrational upgrading. And I love that you brought it down to accessing stillness and like even doing it through that more neutral, monotonous energy, like cleaning the house or whatever, which when you clean the house, you're moving energy. So you're actually making it easier to receive what you need to receive there. But accessing stillness is such, God, that's been coming up in every single group I run right now. We're doing something in my membership where we're meeting with our inner being several times throughout the day through the act of stillness. Like, and that doesn't have to look like meditation. It's just making time for it, pausing, and turning down the volume on that external chaos so you can hear your inner being. Whether it's a, hey kid, you're in breakdown mode, relax, just take it easy for a few days, or okay, you're stuck, let's pivot.
Isn't it crazy how most people think it's really hard? Like, well, I'm going through this big thing and I'm feeling crap and this happened, the water heater, my car broke. It's like, time out. Let's step back. And I find that with my clients, it's like, well, that's it. That's all I have to do. And it's like, yeah, sometimes that's all you have to do to get yourself to move to a different space. And that's what I love is energy is ever evolving and moving. It takes as little as a minute to get up from your space, walk around and just kind of breathe in some air, and the energy can shift. You can change, you can move instead of being stuck in that cloud. And it doesn't have to be hard all the time. And I think that is such a big misconception. It's like, well, my life is, I'm going to need this huge overhaul. I'm going to have to do all these things. It's like, this is supposed to be accessible, practical, easy. None of my clients have to spend 3 hours in meditation and journaling to get where they need to go every day. That's not practical. We've got kids, I've got kids, you've got kids, we've got husbands and, partners, spouses, there's stuff happening. I like to be, work smarter, not harder. What can we do right here and now to move through this instead of staying here, because staying here sucks. It can be really easy.
Yes. And I think you named a really important quality of how it can be filled with more ease and flow. And that is to look through the lens of life is happening for me. Things are unfolding for my highest good, even if I don't know how or why or can't identify it in this moment. When you engage in the story of, bad things are happening, car breaks down, dishwasher, yada, yada, fight with boss, and you're looking through the lens of things are happening to me, well, that's disempowering. Things are happening through me, for me, that's empowering. You can do something with that. You can move that energy and experience it differently. And that's why it is super, super helpful to have tools, people, programs, YouTube channels that talk about all this stuff, because it makes us more conscious. And if we engage in the work, we're able to develop that discernment. Now, I want to make sure we mention this because a lot of what you spoke to in the way of practical application, you have an awesome freebie for that, an awesome gift that I want people to know about so they can go get it. It's absolutely free. Tell us about that.
It can't get any simpler. I've taken all of the guesswork out of what am I supposed to do now? What's next? It's a super easy downloadable workbook. It's in PDF form, but it lays you out for 3 weeks of getting out your gratitudes, what you need to be doing, moving your body, taking some stillness, how to ask the universe for help, because that's a big one. We don't ever ask for help. We're not geared to do that. It's not something ingrained in us. We try to figure it out all the time. So it's a super lovely laid out workbook. It has everything that all you have to do is grab a pen or do it on your computer. And it's 3 weeks worth of allowing you to start accessing your awareness. It gives you step by step of what you can be engaging in, how you can do it, and how easy it can be. I guarantee you in less than 2 weeks, you'll notice it, but I've given you enough for 3 weeks because now it'll make it a habit. Now you've got 3 weeks worth of guidance, support to help you access your awareness, help you get through some of these lower points. It's pretty magical to see what can happen in just a very short time when you're actually focusing your time, you're focusing your energy, you're focusing your thoughts.
Consistency is the magic. That's what I always say. Consistency, without it, you're just getting little glimpses here and there. And I took a peek at it prior to us meeting, and I was just blown away. I'm going to start using it as well, because it not only creates that consistency, it creates that consciousness. And it is a perfect tool for what when I'm speaking to, when I say that the true magic happens after the retreat, in between the sessions, what you do to take it forward. And this gives you a format to do that in. And plus, I think you guys will love Julie's tone. We're relatively behaved right now. Actually, we're really behaved right
I
now.
only swore a couple of times.
Yeah. And what I love about Julie is she's super down to earth and super snarky. I love snark. I think snark and sass and humor are very, very spiritual components. So you'll see a little bit of that in that free gift. And then I think you're also offering complimentary 30-minute sessions with you to see if for those that want to take it deeper.
Absolutely. I think it's important. I don't want a client that I don't connect with, and you don't want a coach that you don't connect with.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. We know that. So absolutely, I have on my scheduling page on my website, there's a chat button. You can just book. Let's see if we can be friends. Let's see if we're a good mix. And we can talk energy. We can talk what's going on with you. Get a snippet of how I work, how I talk, how I show up. And it gives me an idea of how you do it too. And I think it's super important. It's definitely not if you're looking for a reading. Don't do that, please. But if you're looking for a coach, if you're looking for somebody to help you with your gifts, help you with your, unique inside, and that you need to pull on the outside and give yourself permission to do that, I'm your girl for sure.
Yeah.
So don't hesitate to book that chat, and let's see if we can connect.
And you get access to your awesome psychic skills and healing skills when you do so. So ever since I've stopped doing primarily the one-on-one coaching, you're my go-to gal to refer people to. So take advantage, guys.
Thank you.
Other than that, if you liked this video, this is what you say when you have a YouTube channel. If you liked this video, hit the like button or comment and subscribe. But truly, please do, because it affects the YouTube algorithm, and then more people will see it. And hopefully, this will help, because really what we're talking about here is consciousness. Let's keep talking about it. Let's keep finding ways to innovate and bring it into our everyday lives. Not only to, create a ripple effect and uplift the world and all that. I mean, that's what we're up to here. That's what we're wanting to do. But let's be honest, in our own personal experiences, we want more ease. We want more flow. We want more joy. We want to be able to access that. And you know what? We can. It's our birthright. We are all individuations of divinity. We just have forgotten that. And we're in the process of remembering. So this helps. I'll include all the proper links in the show notes. You can look below this screen if you're watching on the YouTube channel, or check the email if you received it as an email. But otherwise, if you haven't signed up for my free 3-day e-course, 3 days to raising your vibration, I would look into that as well, because it's a great complement to what you're doing with Julie's gift too. And we make it free because we know how hard it is to take that first step. So just do it. You can always unsubscribe if you decide that we're full of shit. All right, guys. Thank you, Julie. This was awesome. We will definitely be having more conversations, and I'll be doing more of these segments with different people to give you different access points. Please let me know how it lands with you. Leave me a comment, email me, and we'll see you next time. Now I have to figure out how to stop the recording. Oh, it's right there. Okay. Bye.